Good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have a very interesting show for you today. This is one of those shows where I go, Sharifa, how are you going to tie this all together? How are you going to make this work? And you know what? Like always, I have absolutely no idea. But what I do know is that we are going to have some fun today. So I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go out and be an evangelist for the Roundtable Talk Show. So I want you to find someone. I want you to turn to your neighbor. I want you to do whatever you have to do. Go over to your roommate, wake them up, and let them know the Roundtable Talk Show is live, because friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're waking, whoever needs to be woke, because that's what they need right now. They need to get woke. I'm going to do what you bring me here to do, and that is to introduce our very first guest. And so we have a young lady who is an inspiration to everyone. She is going to talk about her latest film, her new feature film that will be out on November 1st. But before we talk about the film, I always allow people the opportunity to talk about the story behind the film, their story, and why they're on this path. And then we can talk about the release of her first feature film, Christmas in Carolina. Good morning, Miss Stacie Davis. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. You are so welcome. Now, I'm excited because, and this is a personal thing. I've been in the entertainment background. When I did the IPO, we raised $6 million. That was in a television studio. And one of the things that I noticed is that there aren't that many females in this industry. So for you to be in this industry, I applaud you. Kudos to you, because I know it's not an easy thing to do. What got you on this path, Stacie?
Sharifa, I was watching a Christmas movie with my mom and said to her, you know what? I can write a Christmas movie as well. She said, you sure could. And I did. And then months later, Christmas in Carolina was birthed. So what got me on this path, I graduated from Claflin University with a mass communications degree, went into the television industry and started doing documentaries for sports. And I really appreciate, I loved what I was doing. And then when I saw the Christmas movie and told my mom the idea, I jumped right into feature films. So that is my path.
You are one of those people, at least by the appearance that I have, that it's like some people have to struggle. They tell you these stories of how many times Hollywood has closed the doors to them. And you're like, okay, why don't you just give up? Then you have your story and you say, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And so for you to just get up and write it, I think that's amazing. Did you have any concerns or any thoughts that maybe, this mountain was too big for you?
I did. I really did. And that became with the funding, because being independent, it takes funding to make a movie. Okay, let's just be real. So funding came from my family members, my savings account, just pulling resources, using my resources. I knew that in South Carolina, we're not known to be the film industry here. You hear New York, California, but not South Carolina. It's not major. So what can I do to make a Christmas movie? Use my resources, contact people that are into film, that can help, that can donate their time, donate their skills, get the experience. I reached out on Backstage website to find actors. Instagram was a friend of mine to find actors, social media. So I'm just pulling resources. You have to use your resources, ask people. And it's okay if they say no. You just go to someone else and ask the same question, You just cannot give up. If you are serious about your craft, then you cannot give up. And that's one thing that both my parents taught my sister and I. If you're serious about your craft, don't give up. Just because that one door closes on you doesn't mean you give up. You just go to the next door. Eventually, a door will open for you, So that's something that my family, my mom and dad taught me and my sister. And I kid you not, we had some challenges. Yes, but we also had a great time producing Christmas in Carolina. A great cast. It was a special moment because it was our very first Christmas movie together. The leads that you see, David Rao, Joslyn Whitehall, Jesse Nicolette, Terrence Shingler, it was their very first feature film. Kelly Williams joined in on the project, and Kelly and Darius are from Family Matters TV show. We haven't seen Kelly in a while. And for her to say, yeah, sign me up, I want to be a part, was so amazing to have her and Darius to be on Christmas in Carolina. We learned so much from them. They gave so much insight to the young people on set. So that's something that I want anyone who's watching this. If you're serious about your craft, don't give up, keep going.
Wow. I'm going to see you on stages talking to millions of people because you are so inspiring. But one of the things that stood out to me in what you said is, and I always talk about the gold, like you give us gold, but you may not even realize that it's gold. People think that getting celebrities and big stars on the show or in a feature film is what's going to put the movie out there and what's going to make it a hit. And from what you just explained, you went out there before you got the stars, before you got the celebrities. So that's what I think people really need to understand.
And that's true, Sharif, because I didn't have, when I first started, all I had was my faith, guys. Okay. Mm-hmm. Faith is what got Christmas in Carolina here. I had no money, but faith made that happen. I had no celebrities.
You not only had faith, you had ability as well.
Thank you, Steve. Look at you.
You know what?
I had ability too. So
don't sell yourself short.
Thank you. And I had faith and ability, and those two things work together in my good, So I give all credit to God for helping me get to here and my family, because I know the story, guys. I know what it took for us to get here. I thank Irvin and Peggy Williams, the parents to Kelly Williams, because Mr. Irvin was a mentor and still is a mentor, guiding me through the SAG process. It's a SAG film, and SAG after it has a lot of paperwork that come with it, guys. And so just helping me, he and his wife helping me with that process. So filmmaking is very fun. I know that the community, I'm from a small area, guys, about an hour away from Myrtle Beach, Marion, South Carolina. It's like a flyover zone. So you don't hear much about Marion, but if you tag in Myrtle Beach, then people say, oh, okay. So in my community, to know that someone that grew up in the area was shooting a movie was really amazing for them, because they came out so supportive. We had to feed our crew. So having community members to donate food and cook food for us, that's when I say it took a village, it really did take a village in my situation. We all pulled together to make Christmas in Carolina possible.
I think that's beautiful. I'm going to come back to you, Stacie. You want
to come back to me.
I want to hear more about Christmas in Carolina. I want to go ahead, since he's one of those people who just jumps right in there and makes things happen. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Mr. Steve Silberberg. And Steve is one of those people that if you get stressed out, you might want to join him for a little while. He is the founder of Fitpacking. He takes people on backpacking adventures. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome, Steve. Tell us about, before I even go into the company, I want you to know something. I want to have a little bit of therapy right now. Okay. So usually I don't tell people that I'm not into whatever it is they're into, but Steve, I feel like you and I can talk.
Okay.
I go camping in hotels.
Yeah.
That's my thing, right? So How is it that you, tell me about going backpacking it out for people like me who don't want to break a nail?
Well, okay, let's start with this. When you go backpacking, you're out in the wilderness, at least on one of our trips, for a week at a time with no electricity, no plumbing, no Wi-Fi. That's not for everybody. I happen to like it. It gives you a feeling of independence. It gives you a feeling that our power got shut down, or we had a power outage for a day last week. And people were up in arms complaining on Facebook. And if you talk to them, they were just so angry, but I love it. And so Sharifa, you don't have to want to camp. It's not for everybody. However, if you did, I think you would find that you'd be a lot less stressed. I know you said you're a little bit type A, maybe obsessive at times about perfection.
You didn't have to bring that into the conversation, Steve. We was talking about that backstage.
No, I can tell you how well you're put together, that you have enough detail.
Thank you, Steve. That was the save, but that's okay. Go proceed. You were correct, though, but that's okay. You know,
I forgot where I was.
We were in the wilderness. We had no Wi-Fi. We had no anything remotely close to maid service. That's where we were.
Yeah. So when you're out there, a whole world of, we evolved in a natural world. So I think there's parts of us that really appreciate the sun and large mountains and thundering rivers and just being out among animals and nature. And yes, there are bugs, and yes, there are hardships. But once you slow down, you find out that you're a little bit more creative. When you're carrying your stuff all day, it's a great workout. You find that you actually lose a little bit of weight. I should say fat. I'm in. Yeah.
That's all you had to say, Steve.
And what you find is that you become more in tune with the natural world. You wake up at first light and you go to sleep when it gets dark. And it brings again, it's kind of a hippie thing, but there's a peace that comes with it.
What gave you this idea, Steve? Because to me, earlier you were talking about my personality type A, how you could tell. Like, to me, you have that MacGyver kind of vibe, that MacGyver energy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, if I was lost in the woods, I would love to be, well, you wouldn't be lost. But if I was lost, I would want you to find me, because I know you would have everything in your backpack.
So actually, I get stressed out. I get stressed out before trips. That's because there's a lot of preparation that goes into it, especially when taking a group of 10 or 12 people who may be novices, who, like yourself, have never been out before. We actually introduce people to the wilderness and hopefully inspire them to protect it. So I'm glad you feel like you would be safe with me.
I feel safe. It's something about you, Steve, that makes me feel safe. But I'm going to come back to you because
okay,
I don't know where I'm going with you today, Steve. But when you talk about feeling safe, okay, I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest who helps the world be a safer place. He is an author, an expert. Actually, he's the author of 3 books, and he is a forensic trial consultant. His books focus on false allegations of child sex assault. Please welcome Mr. Dean Tong. Good morning, Dean. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. Thanks for having me today.
You are so welcome. You make me feel safe, that there are good people in the world who make sure that the law is followed and that children are protected. Can you give us a little bit of background on what you do, Dean?
Yeah, so I'm a certified forensic consultant, certified forensic interviewer in pretty much child hearsay cases. He said, she said, what a child said. And certainly I'm on the unpopular side of this abuse coin. We've all heard of the Me Too movement, and we're all accustomed to believing children and women would not lie, would not be mistaken when they say that something happened to them, they've been abused. And certainly I'm not discrediting what children and women do say, but there are 2 sides of this coin, and every person accused has a right to due process. That right to due process includes counsel and includes experts. I'm the latter. So I get involved in high conflict divorces, custody battles, child abuse cases all over America. I've been doing this for 25 years. I got involved through firsthand experience, as I was accused myself back in 1985. So I've been involved in this issue for a long, long time. And so, of course, I was cleared in my own situation in Florida. I just took it to another level and made it my life calling. I have consulted for the media in Michael Jackson's case, Kobe Bryant's case, John Benet Ramsey, Elian Gonzalez, a little boy off of my state of Florida whose mother drowned 20 years ago. And who was taken in by relatives, cousins here in Florida. So it's a very controversial issue, certainly. I go up against prosecutors and attorneys for Department of Children's Services all over America. I get involved in hotly contested custody cases. And certainly in my type of case, it's not the CSI Miami, Mariska Hargitay type of situation where we have DNA and blood and bodily fluids. Usually it's just, like I said, hearsay. Words in the mouths of a babe, words in the mouths of an adult woman who says she was molested perhaps 20 or 30 years ago. We've heard this on national TV with Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Dr. Christine Blasey Ford a few years ago. So it all comes down to credibility and what a judge believes and what a jury believes, because they're the ultimate triers of fact.
Mm-hmm. In 1985, when you had your situation right before you got into this, what was your prior career?
Yeah, so my prior career before law was medicine. And
okay.
I started the medical field in the mid-'70s, and I was actually admitted to medical school in 1983. It didn't last long because my then wife, who would be my accuser behind my daughter's situation, who was 3 when I was accused of abusing her, developed epilepsy, and I had to come back to the United States and take care of her and the children. It was shortly thereafter that I got involved in a very hotly contested custody battle.
So the reason I asked about your past career is many people, when they go through different circumstances, one way or another, they kind of accept that situation and go on with their lives. Or they go, I just want to kind of tell other people about it. What was it that made you dedicate your entire career and make a complete pivot from medicine into law to make this your life's purpose?
Well, Sharifa, back in the mid-'80s, we didn't have the law and science on child suggestibility, on memory source contamination. We just didn't have the legal and scientific studies on that. We do now. And certainly my book, my third book, Elusive Innocence, was published in 2002. A doctor who was a mentor of mine who wrote Jeopardy in the Courtroom, Dr. Stephen Ceci, arguably the leading expert in the world on child and human development. He was the one who actually goaded me to the expert career, if you will. I just had to take this to another level. This was an untapped area in America where you could go to prison, you could go to sex offender registration in the New York Minute just based on the word of a child. And, I didn't know this when I got accused in the mid-'80s, and I didn't know that hearsay was admissible. Out-of-court statements made for the truth of the matter asserted were admissible just based on the word of a kid or an adult who said I was abused as a kid. And this would go to court. You could wind up getting handcuffs slapped on you, go to jail, and all of a sudden you have to prove a negative to prove your innocence. I didn't know any of this could happen. So I studied and I studied and I studied some more. And I just had to make a difference on this issue. And I hope I've done some of that. My website, Abuse-Excuse, has been on the internet now since 1997.
Wow. Kudos to you. Dean, I'm going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest. Again, we're talking about education, forensics, so much going on. But this young lady is the CEO of her company, Educational Writing Services, LLC. She provides scholarship coaching and college admissions assistance. Good morning, Candace Chambers. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm excited to be here today. I always love learning. I love learning about businesses, movies, film, wilderness, whatever it is. But your focus is on education, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about Educational Writing Services.
Okay. I started Educational Writing Services with the focus on editorial services, but also college coaching for students and professionals. So with the college coaching approach, everybody thinks like you have to take out student loans to go to college and you're going to have all the student loan debt. I didn't have any student loan debt going through college, and I wanted to assist other students in doing the same. So I started the company doing group workshops across the nation at different colleges and universities, helping students understand how to find scholarships and, most importantly, how to write their scholarship essay. Most scholarships have a writing component, and I have my graduate degree and my master's degree in English. And so I use that background to be able to help students to be able to write their scholarship essay. So I wrote my book, Write Your Way to a Successful Scholarship Essay. Very small book, just because I know students don't like to read really thick books. And I walk them through that process of applying for scholarships and tangible scholarships that they can get so they can avoid student loan debt. So that's pretty much the company in a nutshell. So we do individualized college coaching, group coaching, and also online college courses.
It's very interesting. I want to ask the same question I asked Dean. Okay, you went through this process. You had no student loan debt, and you said, okay, this is a wonderful thing. But at what point did you decide, you know what, this is a business?
All right. I think it was more so during my master's program. I worked in a writing center during my graduate program, and I taught college English as a graduate student at like 22. And so when I was teaching these students and just applying the skills that I learned in my program with writing and things of that nature, then I'm listening to people that are going to college behind me. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of merge writing and then scholarships and making sure students do not go to school with debt, because I'm thinking in my head, like, I have no student loan debt. My undergraduate degree was free. My master's degree is free. And now my PhD is also free. And it's because of the skill sets that I'm learning. And most of it was grounded in writing. So I said, okay, let me merge those passions and help other people in the community and kind of expand what I'm doing in my coursework or kind of in the ivory tower of the university and extend it out into the community. And so that's how I pretty much merged my passions into making it into a business.
When did you launch your company?
I launched the company in 2017. And so that's when I started doing workshops at different colleges like Spelman College, Dillard University, different community colleges, churches, community centers. So really getting out into the community. And then I expanded it into individualized coaching.
One of the things that we often discuss on the Roundtable Talk Show is the whole global pandemic. And education is one of those areas that has pivoted, that has changed, and you know, the whole world has. But what have you seen as far as the changes or trends in college admissions in the process? Are students more interested now, less interested? What have you seen?
So from what I've seen from my high school students is they don't have their kind of one-on-one counselor like coaching right now, because a lot of them are not in school. So a lot of them are kind of lost with the college admissions process. But also, since many schools are waiving those testing requirements, a lot of students are able to get admitted to college, but they don't remember, like, we still have to take the test because you can get scholarships with your test scores. So I'm seeing that more students might be admitted to go to school, or they're like, okay, the door is a bit more open because I don't have to have like a high ACT score, a high SAT score. But I'm also seeing that some students who haven't taken the test or who might need to take the test again and again, they're forgetting about that component about like college can be paid for with the test scores and that whole process. So I think that's because of the lack, like I said before, of them being in person with a counselor at their school. So I think students are still interested. It's just letting them understand, like, you can still go, but let's be strategic about this. Like, if you got to go to a community college first, then a university, considering we're in a virtual environment, let's do this very strategically so that your parents won't be out of so much money, or you can just essentially go for free.
Yes, Candace, yes, that's what we have to do, get education back a focus. I am going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, because once we get these kids educated with no student loan debt, and guess what they need? Guess what they need, Candace? You done already muted me, and I'm asking you a question. What do they need, Candace?
A job or a career.
Talk to them. That's what they need. They need that career. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce our next guest, who specializes in recruiting and interviewing candidates he's done that for almost 10 years and allows them to have the complete edge when applying for jobs. He is the founder and CEO. And he's also an author of Interview Pros. Good morning, Evan. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I saw you just had something in your hand. What was that?
I did, yes. So this is my shameless plug for my company. These are one of our brochures that we came out with describing our services and what we do. So as you mentioned, we specialize in interview coaching, interview preparation, resume building. We also build LinkedIn profiles, but we really arm job seekers with that competitive edge. We give them the knowledge so that they can successfully go into an interview and present themselves in the best light. So, my background is in psychology. I studied behavioral neuroscience and languages in college. And so I believe in taking a pragmatic approach. I don't think there's a blanketed approach when it comes to interviewing, like this is what everybody can do to get a job. I believe it's individual, because when you're interviewing with a hiring manager, decision maker, or a recruiter, you're dealing with people's biases and prejudices and things like that. So what I do is I coach my clients and I show them, what is it going to take for you to get a job? Not how do you tell a story or how do you summarize your background, or what are some of the nuances and roadblocks that are preventing you from putting your best foot forward. So, we analyze all areas of their career, their personality, their speech, and we kind of polish it up. We create stories. We tell them how to summarize their background. We work on their digital footprint. And overall, most importantly, we help them develop a career brand. And branding is the most important thing. I have my MBA in business administration. So, marketing and all that comes into play. And when you're interviewing, it's essentially marketing. Some of the first resumes were advertising ads put out in local newspapers. So when you think about a resume, it's essentially an ad about yourself. So I kind of combined both of my academic endeavors into a company that was birthed out of the pandemic. Due to the nature, everybody's unemployed right now. I myself have been in recruitment for a long time, and part of my job is giving feedback to candidates. So I started doing that and realizing how much in demand that was. People wanted to know, how do they do during an interview? How do they get better? And if you do a Google search on interview tips, there's a plethora of information out there. But there aren't a lot of companies that will specialize and show candidates how they specifically can get a job. So I decided to kind of create this company and give job seekers the knowledge that they need to really put their best foot forward.
I think that's wonderful. But what stood out to me is it was interesting that you mentioned psychology, because there's a whole psychology to interviewing and to getting a job. And I was talking on one of my shows and I was like, I judge people. Like I can look at certain people and I was like, okay, this is what I think about them. And I wouldn't even see your resume. Whatever job you were applying for, you were hired. Like you got me at the suit.
And see, that's all part of our coaching. We talk about how important it is to make sure that you're very cognizant about how you dress, the colors you wear, the way that you speak, just everything that comes into play that people think about subconsciously, and putting it in your conscious so that you basically can control the interview and control people's perception of you.
I did a lot of hiring in the companies that I worked for. And one of the things that I noticed, 2019, 2018, more and more people started showing up for interviews casually dressed. And this was like one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, you don't even look like you want this job. That offends me. And I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but that's how I feel.
That's how I feel as well. I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in supply chain, I've worked in so many different industries, sectors, education. And, I always tell people, it always baffles me how people just, they think that they can just talk their way into a job, but all of these things come into play. And so one of my biggest tips to job seekers is do some research on the organization. Make sure you go there before your interview and see how people are dressed. That way you already look like you fit in, and the recruiter or hiring manager or decision maker subconsciously thinks that you belong here already. If the company has a certain color scheme, as long as it's not too bright or flashy, make sure that you're wearing colors that represent the company. That way they think that you belong there already. And it's creating that subconscious effect, that this person is one of us.
What are some of the strategies that you recommend for the social media? One of the things that I've also seen, and it may, my kids are 23 and 26, so maybe it's the mom in me, but so I will go to the social media of applicants, and I'm seeing all kind of stuff that it's like, don't you want to be more professional when applying for a job?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, we work on career brands. So, as a recruiter, it's so easy for me to find information on people. We have access to databases. I can do background checks if I want to. So finding out something about somebody is very easy today. Information is everywhere. So what I tell candidates and job seekers is that you want to appear consistent. Working on your digital footprint is probably going to be the most important thing. Companies have been birthed, to really clean up people's online profiles and images, taking down pictures or comments or things like that can actually hinder them from getting a job or progressing in their industry. So what I tell job seekers is that consistency is key. You got to make sure your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything is in, uniformed fashion. That way it represents you and it tells a clear story of where you're going, where you've been, and who you are as a person.
So Evan, what if I wanted to be a wilderness guide? Would you be able to help me?
I could help you become a wilderness guide. Maybe not as much as Steve, but I can definitely make it look like you know what you're doing.
Okay, how do I look like I know what I'm doing? I want to be a registered, not just a wilderness guide. I want to be a registered wilderness guide. If you want to be registered,
I would connect you with somebody like Steve, and I would find out what the steps are to get you registered. But then most importantly, I would arm you with the knowledge. I would do research. I'm very good at researching. I have a passion for researching. I read a lot. I'm working on my second book right now. So I study a lot, so I would be able to study the industry and the field, probably not as well as Steve, but myself, I love being out in the wilderness as well. Before we went live, we were talking a little bit, and I wanted to tell and share with Steve that I actually spent some time in the Amazon jungle. I went fishing for the first time. Yeah, it was okay. I got kind of sick when I was there, but the very first time I went fishing in my whole life, I went on the Amazon River for piranha fishing. So it was quite the experience. Wow. Yeah, it was quite the experience. I think I was like 19 or 20 years old. But yeah, I spent some time in the wilderness, out in the jungle, learned that, you shouldn't drink water in certain parts of the world.
That's a good one. Yeah,
you on ice,
treat your water.
So yeah, that was an experience. But basically what I would do is help you create a digital footprint, making sure that all your social media platforms are on the same wave, reflecting your passion for that field, whether it be wilderness or the healthcare, automotive, IT, even law. I would show you how you can actively contribute to your industry by creating blogs, maybe vlogs or articles, and just show you how to be consistent. There's tons of companies out there that can help with writing, that can help with, social media calendars and things like that. But mainly, most important, it's all about content. So creating content and strategically putting it online, so that's what we specialize in.
You had an answer for that. That was a good answer too. I didn't know what you was going to say. So all of a sudden I had this visual of Steve in the wilderness with a backpack. And then Evan following him in the wilderness behind a tree, trying to figure out what I need to know. And then Evan reporting back to me and like, Sharifa, you got to change your social media. We need pictures of you in the wilderness. That's what, Stacie, am I wrong? You see it?
Hey, I'm seeing it. I'm with you, Sharifa. I am.
Yes, that's exactly what we do. We help create visualizations and we help, create a clearer future for people. We give them that roadmap to success.
Yes. Candace, you going out in the wilderness with me? Can I guide you?
I can be there with you.
Thank you. I wouldn't trust me in the wilderness, though. Dean, you going to go with me in the wilderness?
Yeah, well, my significant other is a big Bigfoot fan, so yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
She's a what fan?
It's interesting. It's great to hear, Evan, that you have that you have experience and you enjoy the Amazon and going out in the wilderness. One of the things, a lot of our parts, we don't get a lot of people of color to come out in the wilderness and on our trips. And I'm wondering, and it's great to hear that Evan, you have a passion for that. So I was wondering if you had if you knew any particular reasons culturally why that might be the case.
That's a very interesting topic, and I'm sure it goes a lot deeper than we can cover right now. But just from a general overview, activities like that tend to be culturally based, and various cultures in America right now, especially, Black culture or Hispanic, that's not necessarily their passion or their focus, just given other variables in their lives and different things like that. My family, we actually come from the Caribbean. My parents are from Trinidad and Tobago. I've lived in a lot of different states. We have family all over the world. So I'm used to traveling and getting to know different cultures. I myself speak 3 languages. And, like I said, I've lived in 5 different countries. So I love traveling and getting to know people and just trying to just get outside my comfort zone. So I don't mind spending time in the desert. I got some land out in near Ocotillo Wells, just a little 1/4 acre, but I spend time in the desert. I do dirt bike riding, motorcycle riding. I love going in the mountains. I just started falling in love with the beach. So I spend some time at the beach, maybe once a week, writing my book. So I'm really trying to connect with nature as well, and get outside my comfort zone.
Sounds like you have a charmed life there.
I'm blessed, a little blessed.
That was Steve, I'm gonna give you an award. That was like the question of the last 6 months. That question was so authentic. It was just like you really wanted to know. And Evan, great answer. But I really applaud you for your honesty and actually asking that question. Because when you ask, I'm like, where is this going? Because people typically don't ask, look, why? I want some more Black customers. Because that's typically, that's what I heard in your question.
Yeah, I do. And I not only do I want Black customers, I want to see a more diverse, I want to see more Black people out in the wilderness. I want to see more Asians. Well, you see some, but you don't see that many. We get a reasonable amount of Black women, but we never see Black men. So that's why I was really interested in Evan's response. I read this book called Black Faces, White Spaces, which speaks to that. And it was overly scholarly for me. It went into all sorts of anthropology and sociology and things like that. Whereas I wanted more of a, it's just not cool it's just not cool in our community or whatever. Something more that I could work with.
I don't think that I can give you my 2 cents for what it's worth. Yeah. Like Evan, I can't speak for the entire Black community, but when I feel, and this is a conversation I typically would have on face-to-face talk show, but this is just what I feel. A lot of people are focused on their basic needs, what they're doing on a daily basis. So because that's their focus, especially now in a global pandemic where the majority of the world is just trying to live, they're trying to survive. You have so many people who are on unemployment. Most people won't say, let me just go backpack in the wilderness.
Yeah.
But I am one of those people. I believe in that expression. The man got on the plane. He went to a place and he saw a whole bunch of people with no shoes. He was selling shoes. He got there. He saw nobody with shoes. He got back on the plane, said, I can't sell shoes. Nobody wears shoes in this place. Another guy got on the plane, went to the place, saw all these people with no shoes. He was like opportunity. So everything is the way you present it and the way you look at it. So to me, from a business consultant marketing perspective, I would say if that's what you want, then create a campaign to attract what you want.
Because if you think about it, going back in time, our culture, colored people from different colors, they weren't perceived or seen as explorers. You have Christopher Columbus, who came to America, and the Spaniards who discovered South America and things like that. But you don't really see a lot of Black cultures that are doing discoveries, discovering new land and things like that. They tend to
Matthew Henson is the first one.
So when
Matthew Henson about it. For the North Pole. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that's true. But when I think about it, it's not really popularized, cultures, people of color, exploring new lands and things like that. So I think that kind of stems from it, kind of like what Sharif is saying. It's a whole marketing thing. Our culture doesn't market that side of us, even though it could be in us, but it's just not necessarily popularized yet.
Yeah. So popularized it, Steve. What did you think, Stacie?
Make sure my mic is on mute. I agree with Evan. You have to be able to market. I'm interested in joining the wilderness with the group. If Sharifa and everybody that's on the round table would go. I'm
not here to market to you guys, but you're definitely welcome.
It's interesting to step outside your comfort zone and try something new. So I would be interested in doing something like that, the wilderness. Now, I can't stay past 7 days. Now, I got to be back in. But, just to start off slow, 1 or 2 nights, get my feet wet, Steve. That's all I'm asking.
I think what it'll take too is, if you think about shows like, what's that show with Bear Grylls on Discovery Channel?
Oh, yeah. Right.
Things like that. I think
it's
like the media using maybe somebody of color to represent the community.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To show, that we can survive in the wild as well. And it's not just Africa. Whenever I think of, Black people in the wild, I think of indigenous people, I don't think of modern people backpacking and surviving and learning these skills. But I myself, when I was growing up, I grew up in the church. We had an organization called Pathfinders. It was kind of a derivative of the Boy Scouts of America. So, I had to learn to pitch a tent. I had to learn how to tie knots. I had to learn how to do different things, learn about different plants. So it was fun for me.
So I can get lost in the woods with you as well, Evan. I'll tell y'all right now, if there are woods, Sharifa will be lost.
She will be lost. Don't worry, Sharifa. I'll be there to help you, honey. We'll get through it together.
I mean, like, Stacie, did you see that bug? I know we said 7 days, girl, but that was a bug.
Like, that was a huge bug.
Not doing this. Candace over there. Candace, come on, talk to us. I know you educating the kids, but we going out in the wilderness, change the world.
I think it's a matter of exposure. Like, even with students and how they choose college majors, it's just like what they're exposed to in their community. So, the wilderness, in my community or in my space or people that I know, nobody might have ever went in the wilderness. So what does wilderness mean to me? So I think it's more so like culturally relevant activities and just making it relevant, like they're saying, like in our culture, but it's more so exposure. Like, it could be a great thing, but people just don't know about it or know, like, operating within that kind of safety net. Like, we don't really anybody doesn't do things that are kind of scary or outside of the comfort zone. But like they were saying, like taking it slow, like a 1-day trip or like a 2-day trip.
A couple hours, maybe 45 minutes in the wilderness.
45 minutes.
I'm telling y'all right now, Candace is the only one who convinced me to go. Candace,
20-minute trip
for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
No, this is good. It's thank you for that's good to hear. That's good.
I think it also too, it has to do with fear. I'm just kind of thinking through this question a little bit more now. And I think it has to do with fear, not to get too racial, but if you think back, in the early like 60s, 40s, things like that, a lot of bad things happen to people of color in the woods here in America.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So
and you're a sitting duck when you're out there.
Exactly, where there's no witnesses, no cameras, no internet, things like that. We need that security. So
I think so. My brother lives in Australia, and he's always, I'm like, when are you coming back to America? He's like, they're killing Black people out there. I was like, but do you know what they do in the outback? They'll be like, one day they see you, the next day is anybody
no
see
evidence of you.
Right.
I'll tell you, white people are afraid to go out too. So I can imagine that it's even more protracted for people. Yeah.
I think it's the fear, but let me ask you, where are you located? Where is this wilderness?
Well, I'm located in Boston, but we go all over the country. Mount Rainier National Park, Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, Great Smoky Mountains, Shenandoah. Yeah, just all, and places you may not have heard of, like the Ouachita Mountains of Oklahoma, whatever.
The Ouachita Mountains of Oklahoma are
I know. Who
are
knew?
Full of people of color.
Not really.
Yeah. Have you done any wilderness traveling outside the states?
I've been to Patagonia and some places, and Machu Picchu in Peru, and a couple of places in Canada. But mostly it's domestic. We can't actually, because of travel bans, we can't go out of the country right now.
Yeah, Machu Picchu is one of my favorite places, and I've been there 3 times.
Oh my God, that's great!
Yeah, I love Machu Picchu.
Can you adopt me, Evan? I want to be in your blessed life too.
I know he's Mr. Worldly here.
Yes. Yeah, I notice Evan didn't answer that, but that's okay. I'm gonna go over to Dean. When people get quiet, I always have to bring them back into the conversation because we're talking about wilderness, we're talking about changing lives. So, Dean, what are some of the things that people can do if this happens to them?
The first thing, Sharifa, is most people will seek out an attorney. As I point out on my website, in my book, lawyers don't get this stuff in law school. So they're not all created equal like everything else in life. And, this is a specialized field. So go to my website, abuseexcuse.com. A lot of information there, a lot of scientific legal studies there, a lot of links there. It could literally take you a week to go through all the information there. And certainly I'm just one guy. But I mean, there's a lot of information on child suggestibility, studies on memory source contamination, the difference between implicit memory, explicit memory, the parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex versus the amygdala, hippocampus, And, memory's not a perfect videotape. It deteriorates with the passage of time. So what we think we remember, we may remember bits and pieces, what's called gist memory, but we won't have LeBron James verbatim memory. LeBron being allegedly having a photographic memory. Most people don't have that. So, and again, this is a credibility thing. It's decided by a judge or a jury. I agree with Evan on the dress thing. Very important when you go to court. You can't dress in jeans or slovenly when you go to court. You have to look professional to be professional. And
I wanted to ask you a quick question, Dean. What do you think is easier, proving a positive, or, like you said, what your job is to prove a negative?
Well, I think it's easy to prove a positive because the original mindset and belief system we have is that a child or a woman would not lie about something that happened to their body. Mm-hmm. They would not be mistaken about what happened to their body. I always tell lawyers, be very careful of the L word, the lie word, because mm-hmm. you could really tick off the judge and the jury.
Yeah.
And so I go down more the road of what we call in psychology, source misattribution errors or mistakes. Mm-hmm. Perhaps the abuse happened, but you got the wrong guy, mistaken identity, mm-hmm. or perhaps it didn't happen at all. Perhaps it was the child's imagination. If the child could talk about the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, Peter Pan, and the Easter Bunny, the child could talk about how Daddy touched my pee-pee. Mm-hmm. Maybe Daddy was just giving the child an innocent, innocuous bath. Mm-hmm. Maybe applying Desitin cream, and that got misconstrued in an ugly divorce or custody battle.
Yeah.
And certainly there are studies out on this now, but this is an education process. You'd be surprised about the lack of education that judges and jurors have when it comes to non-abused children who are treated as truly abused victims, and what the iatrogenic and inimical effects to those kids can be, not just kids who've been raped or sexually assaulted, as well as women, of course. So we have a plethora of assault and domestic violence shelters for women. We have very few who haven't been abused, if any, who are trying to seek help there. You go to psychologytoday.com and you're going to find therapists who treat for trauma, but who are very unfamiliar with the unfounded or false accusation trauma and the PTSD that can come from that. So it really is an untapped field with very little research on that side of the coin, the effects of false accusations upon children and families. I have contributed to some of that research over the past 30 years with my 3 books. Certainly, I hope that when I leave this earth, that there will be others that follow suit, because I don't think this issue is going away anytime soon.
No.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. Yeah. With all that, I definitely want, like you said, make sure that they get some therapy for what they've experienced. So we need more warmth, more love, get that Christmas feeling back. Stacie, tell us about the movie. That's one of the things that we haven't had a chance to discuss.
So speaking of Christmas movies, November 1st, we'll be launching off Christmas in Carolina on the Roku channel, or premiering on the Roku channel. And during this time of season, 2020 has been an unprecedented year. So we need some holiday cheer, to uplift those who have lost loved ones or who have dealt with, illnesses. We just need some holiday cheer. So why not sit with family members and watch Kelly and Darius, the Laura and Eddie Winslow, and see what's going on with Christmas in Carolina. It was a pleasure to write it. It was fun to make it. And it's exciting now to actually promote and let others know about Christmas in Carolina. I just want to invite those that are watching this show to join in on November 1st. We also will have more details to come about Christmas in Carolina. If you don't have the Roku channel, I've had several people to reach out to me on Facebook saying, hey, I don't have Roku. What are ways that we can watch it? And I said, hey, I have more details about it, because we do have other outlets where you will be able to see Christmas in Carolina. So I am very thankful for you, Sharifa, for having me on your show. It was a pleasure to, meet everyone and to speak about Christmas in Carolina.
You are so welcome, but don't leave yet. The show
I'm
is
not leaving
yet.
I'm not leaving. I just felt
you
like
owe me 9 minutes. Just let it out when the spirit moves you.
Let you.
She's ready to go to the wilderness, is what she said.
Oh well, just for one day. Just for one day.
Hey, I thought we was at 45 minutes. Don't go.
Oh, 45 minutes. Don't push it up. 45.
That's how it starts. You start there, and it sucks you in.
It's addicting, though. It's very refreshing.
I have truly enjoyed this show. Okay, I got distracted. I told you I see squirrels. So Michelle von Chudnitz, I said it wrong. I apologize, Michelle, sincerely from the bottom of my heart. But Michelle says Christmas in Carolina will be available on Prime and on Amazon as well. So Stacie, your team is there.
Thank you, Michelle. Let me tell you about Michelle and Nicole. They have been fantastic to work with. I really appreciate them. Just for that reason right there. She just let everyone know that they will be on Prime and Amazon as well. It truly took a team for Christmas in Carolina, guys. And I just want to let any young person know, because I lived in a small city and, you know, the odds were against me. You have to have that determination to make it happen. You cannot quit because someone say it can't happen. And also another thing that I will say, you have to protect your dreams. So if you are, you're dreaming to be an actor, you have to protect that. What do I mean by that? You can't say to everyone, hey, I want to be an actor, because someone may say, oh, you can't do that. And they'll speak against your dream. Yes. So protect that, you know, make sure you trust the people that you know with your dreams. I was very quiet when I wrote Christmas in Carolina, because I knew I would have some naysayers to say, you can't. So why broadcast it? Write your script and just go with it. And now those naysayers, oh, I want to be part of the team, you know, so you're going to have things like that. And that's just one thing I want to let people know, to protect your dreams and go forth. You have to put the work, your faith and ability, like Steve said today. Those two things helped me out with Christmas in Carolina.
You gave your closing statement. I was getting this is my part where I say, no, it's okay. People come in, they do their own thing. That's why I just sit back and say, I do my Russell Simmons. God bless you and good night. But we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives. And just like Stacie, my guests will let you know what they want you to take away from their appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Dean.
Oh, thank you, Sharifa. Thanks for having me today. Basically, I just want to say that for those that are thinking about or in a divorce, custody battle, perhaps child abuse situation, put the needs of the kids ahead of your own needs. Don't vilify or denigrate or disparage or berate the other parent in front of the child, and certainly foster and nurture the relationship of the kids with the other parent. It's not easy to mediate or conciliate a child abuse allegation case or domestic violence allegation case. But certainly mediation is required in most rules of most states. So you want to try to smoke the peace pipe with the other party. And certainly the best parent is both parents. And children need both parents in their lives. So try to make it work before you have to go to a high conflict, protracted litigation.
The peace pipe thing. I'm going to be smoking that peace pipe out there with Steve. No, not in the wilderness. I'm just kidding, folks. Just kidding.
Just don't do it before an interview. You're looking for a job.
No, there wasn't anything. You know what I mean? It was just, never mind. Steve, what do you have for us?
All right. So if you're interested in learning about the backcountry, and we take people on 1 and 2 week backpacking adventure vacations to get fit and lose fat, but you also lose stress, and you might even enjoy yourself, especially if you like sleeping on the ground. The company's name is Fitpacking.
Steve, are you trying to convince us or like, do you want us to go?
No, so this is part of it. If I was selling you shoes and saying, oh yeah, they look great on you, the worst thing that you could do is come away with ill-fitting shoes or really ugly shoes, and big deal. Haha, I win. But if I take you out in the wilderness and you are not prepared, or you're not, if I convince you to go out in the wilderness and it's something that I've kind of pushed you into that you're not going to like, well, getting out of the middle of Yellowstone National Park when you're 33 miles from the nearest road is a problem for everyone. So I try to push people away beforehand. And if they still come, well, then I've got you.
They are committed.
Yeah.
What's your website, Steve?
It's fitpacking.com, like fitness backpacking.
Fitpacking.com. Thank you. Candace, what do you have for us?
All right, so if you're a high school student or a parent of a high school student, feel free to contact me for guidance, one-on-one guidance with the college admissions process, but also to locate scholarships for a debt-free approach. But also, if you're a college student now who is in need of more funding to attend college, feel free to contact me. And lastly, if you have a youth group or youth organization that needs assistance with just the knowledge on going to college, but going to college in a smart and strategic way, please feel free to contact me. And my website is www.edwritingservices.org.
I like that. Seems like a great partnership between Candace and Evan. Like you guys can cross-promote.
I start my PhD hopefully in November, but it's looking like December now. So I'm going to need funding, scholarships, writing, all of that.
I can help you out.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch.
Evan, what do you have for us?
So my company, like I said, is called Interview Pros. We specialize in bringing job seekers and careers together. You know, if you are looking at switching careers, if you're looking for a job, I know there's a lot of people that are unemployed right now. If you're looking to polish your skills, you know, reach out to us. Our website is interviewprofessionals.com, or you can go to theartofinterviewing.com. So there you can find tons of resources as well, articles, blogs, information about what we do, who we are, the phone number to our company. We give 30-minute free consultations. So we'll just kind of get a sense of who you are, what you're looking to do, and then create a roadmap for you to get to your desired destination.
I love it. Thank you. Stacie, any final words for us?
My final words to everyone. The Roku channel, November 1st, Christmas in Carolina. You may follow me on Facebook, social media, Stacie Davis, or staciedavisfilms.com. And I just appreciate it. Thank you, Sharifa.
You are so welcome. I want to thank you all for being a guest on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching the show in the archives. Just because you didn't catch the live show doesn't mean you are not important and that we don't still need your support. Please go ahead and share this show, whether you're watching it 2 days from now, 8 days from now, or 9 years from now. It really doesn't matter. We want your support. So if you're interested in more ways that I can assist your business, or maybe you want to be a guest at the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at AskSharifa.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.